Hey, what's up, guys? On this episode of Muscle Minds, Dr. Scott is going to teach us how to do our own research. So if you're one of those people that's interested in taking your education further than you could here on a podcast or on a YouTube video, further than you could by reading a message board, then this will be the podcast for you. Dr. Scott is going to teach us how to uncover scientific research online. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Muscle Minds with Dr. Scott Stevenson. I'm Scott McNally. All of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES for some additional savings. If you're watching this on YouTube, then we would appreciate any feedback you have. Feel free to leave some comments. We appreciate the likes, the shares. All that stuff helps to boost us in the algorithm. And if you're new to our podcast, we have several shows coming out each week. So we encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell because that way you can stay up to date with everything we have going on. Dr. Scott, I can see the gears have been turning. We've been connected here for 10 minutes now, and I don't even know what's in store. I know a little bit of what's in store, but I'm excited. I'm going to turn it straight over to you. What's up, man? How you doing?
I like to keep you somewhat in the dark because it keeps you on the edge of your seat. And that way you're like, what the fuck's he going to say next? You got your hand on the pause button. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
you never know.
We need to stop. So this was actually the wheels haven't been churning for very long. This is something that just occurred to me maybe an hour or two ago.
The wheels are always turning. Let's get that
pretty
straight.
much. Yeah, the wheels don't stop, unfortunately. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So what I wanted to do, actually, let's just hand me the reins here, Scott. Let's put me on the screen share, and I can kind of guide people through what I've got planned for today.
All right. We're there.
We're there. Okay. So I get asked questions. I see questions a good bit, asking what does the science show, or basically deferring to me or some sort of an authority who only knows what he or she knows in large extent because he or she has either done the research in an area, they've actually performed some experiments, or they've read the research and they've made it part of their deal as being a researcher, an academician, to know that research. But you can also dig in on those things yourself. So this is sort of, this is where this is my line here is how to do these things on your own to whatever extent you can. Be your own bodybuilding coach and procure your own knowledge. So what I sometimes get, and you guys can see the screen here. This was a question that Keenan Hollingsworth, who's an active, wonderful contributor to the Devices Radio group. It's a private group, so Scott screens heavily. Ignore this request for pictures if you try to go on there and he just wants you to send pictures. Just you can get in the group on Devices Radio and ask questions and do these sorts of things. So he's got a question here that he asked, and he said, does anyone have any research that could suggest looking at acute effects for oral steroids? I'm interested in both physiological and psychological effects, mechanism and outcome based. And you can read the rest of it there. So he's wanted to dig in for whatever purposes here on this particular topic in a very academic way. He's not saying, hey, I've got a buddy who says, this affects him this way and this affects. He wants to know about the research literature. And of course, does anyone have any research? Well, of course, they're all pulling that research from the same body of research of scientific literature, which is equally accessible to him in large part. Probably not entirely. If he were an academician at an institution, then he would have access to some things he wouldn't otherwise want to go through that. But all this stuff's right there available to you. It's sort of like, does anyone have, that would be a bad example. Let's say the Wall Street Journal were a free subscription. I think you have to pay for that online. But does anyone happen to know what the Wall Street Journal has to say about this? And someone could say, well, why don't you just go to Wall Street Journal and search? Mm-hmm. And it's literally that easy. So I wanted to show some people things that they may not know because I see this so often, and this can be such a good way to develop your own perspective unfiltered by mine or anyone else's in answering these kinds of questions. So this is what I sort of put together, and people can snapshot this if they want and use it in the future. So there are Western science. We're talking now about, obviously Western, what typically we think of as science in the Western mind, specific search engines. Google Scholar is the big daddy. It covers multiple different databases, and we're going to go there, and I'll show you how to use Google Scholar. It's really simple. PubMed. It's the Medline database. People, that's the old school name. You don't hear it called that often. People go to PubMed.com, or this is where it's a government-based database. If someone were a previous college student or a JUCO or what have you, maybe even their local library, depending on where they live, you can gain access to a lot of this stuff through a library card. I've got friends who were in grad school who have lifetime memberships to their university library, so they can access all sorts of papers that you won't be able to get for free on Google Scholar or PubMed. But you can get many, many of them there. Sometimes, just as a kind of a forethought, can be some really cool papers that you can't get for free. I buy probably 100 papers a year. And those are usually like $30 or $40 a piece.
Okay.
Because I know, I'm like, oh, that's the paper. That's the one that gives me the goods. That gives me the information that I couldn't otherwise find. And I just suck it up and pay for those.
Yeah.
Researchgate is a site. I don't think it's not a pay site, but you have to have an institutional login of some sort. So if you're someone who's in an academic institution, or maybe you still have your email from when you're in college or what have you, you'll need that in order to get onto Researchgate. Researchgate, and there's another scientific-based hub. I'm not going to say what it is because it's very controversial as to whether or not both Researchgate, which is where you'll find pretty much every researcher anyone listening out there knows of, is on Researchgate.
Okay.
They actually have a membership where they'll be cited, and you can request their papers, and it varies depending on whether or not they have legal ability to distribute those papers. So sometimes after a course of time you can. Typically what happens, is why university library access is so important. If you want to have access to the Journal of Applied Physiology as like an individual, it costs you like $10,000 a year or something like that. It's just outrageous.
Wow. Okay.
So you just can't do it. Otherwise, you have to buy the papers one at a time. It's not like getting access to. You couldn't like go and just pay for access to 15 different journals as an individual.
Yeah.
You'd go through university. Researchgate. If you find a paper in Journal of Applied Physiology that was published by John Smith, who's the person who does all the good stuff in your area, and you might say, "Hey, John, if you can get on there with institutional login." And I've previously, obviously been able to get on there because I've been a college professor. They will send those to you many times. They're really very nice, and I get requests for the things I've done as well. So these are ways you can go. So let's go to Google Scholar. Let me. What I'm going to do. This is Safari, and what I've done. I usually use Safari for most of my browsing, but I'm using Firefox. I use Firefox for all my scientific shit.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. A couple reasons. One, I'll show you guys. It's easier to download. For whatever reasons, the preferences allow me to download directly to my database program.
Okay.
And actually, the database, there's a free database management program I'm going to show you that only works with Firefox. Literally, I downloaded it today. I have no need for this, but I wanted to download this to show you guys how you can use one of these too.
Cool.
So you go into Google Scholar, and we'll go back now to Keenan's question. It's over here. Acute effects of oral steroids. So literally it's like, okay, what are acute effects of oral steroids? I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over here to Google Scholar. It's just like Google, but it's Google Scholar.
Yeah.
Type it in. Boom, shakalaka boom. We have all sorts of things coming up. So oral steroids are going to be also like birth control.
Yeah.
Because estrogen is a steroid. So we might put in like anabolic steroids.
Okay.
Oops. So here we go. There's Stu Phillips. Did one of the earlier stuff on Androstenedione. He does a lot of protein research. So you can go through. They will list these sort of according to relevance. You can list them sort them by date. Let's not do that. Let's go back to any time here, and let's just start reading through. What you'll find is I don't pay attention so much to the order necessarily. I start doing my own selecting, but Neuropsychiatric effects of anabolic steroids on normal male volunteers. So that was one of the questions that Keenan had. Influence shrink acutely and how much effects people claim to get from aggression, energy, blah, blah, blah. And he was interested in physiological and psychological effects. So if we click on this one, we can click here. This will take us to the premier version, which is probably on JAMA, which is Journal of American Medical Association. You can also go to all 9 versions, and this thing will be listed all over the place. So here it's on an Asian publication or an Asian database. So multiple academic databases. This is where it was actually published. And you're going to see, if we scroll down here, we'll see this URL, which is Pubmed. So that's the one that I will use very often because it gives me a standardized way of downloading that to my database. But anyway, what we don't see here, I'm going to go back, is this one of these lovely little links off to the right. PDF. That's where we get the full Monty. That's where we get the whole paper, which is what we want. So you'll get those a lot of times here in Google Scholar. You get them sometimes if we go over to PubMed. So this is Bedline PubMed, which I mentioned before. Let's put this one in. I'm going to just copy it, title, and put it in there. Almost always come up. There it is. And it just takes me back to JAMA for the full text. And probably I'll have the option to buy this for like $40.
Okay.
If I want to. Let's see. So you never know. Sometimes they don't show up. They like to give you some ads. You have to subscribe to the journal. I'm not even going to go through that. Sign in with a personal account. Those are crazy expensive. Physicians will get these.
Okay.
Sometimes because this is a big one. So this one's not a freebie.
Okay.
Full text, not a freebie. Bummer. But some other places to start. Here's an abuse one. Charles Yasalis. He's done a lot of this good stuff. It's a PDF. So what happens if I click this? You don't have to click a new tab. It'll download the PDF and it opens up. I have Adobe Acrobat. So here is the actual paper. Ta-da. And this is a review article. It will probably cite that one. So this is going to give you all sorts of goodies. So right there, we're already digging in. But it's just on DHEA and androstenedione. So I'm going to switch back here. Anabolic steroids. Ooh. This looks like it's recent progress in hormone research, 2002. It's about 20 years old. So you can go through here and find all of this jazz. So what happens, what if I want to like collect this stuff? I use EndNote, and I have in this edition of my database almost 8,000 references.
This is the database that we've heard about, huh?
Let me go back over here.
The Scott Stevenson database that we've heard you reference.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll go to examine.com and search terms. But getting organized, EndNote and Reference Manager are the two that I've used in the past. There's another one, I'm blanking on the name. And there's a bunch of free/open source databases too. So if you want to collect all this stuff, just so you've got it, there are lots of guys who like to do that. You can indeed do that. With Zotero is a great one from what I've seen. I use EndNote because it integrates with Word or word processing software. So then it's pretty badass. Literally, I just copy the reference, paste it in where I want to cite it. I go through, I've got 100 of those, and I actually have it create the bibliography. Boom, it's all done.
Yeah.
I can edit it. I mean, back in the old days, it's like, oh shit, I've got 99 references. I just found 100th, and it's right in the middle. And for this publication, I have to have them in order of appearance. That means if it's the 53rd one, then from 54 to 100, I have to change all those numbers.
Oh, geez.
Manually.
Yeah.
It was awful.
I bet.
Don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. Zotero doesn't do that. There may be a freebie out there somewhere that allows you to work with a reference manager of some sort. So you can see how easy this is. Let's go back here and dig in some more. Let's say that gave us some. Let's go back here. Let's click on this one.
Okay.
So I have this one. Actually, I've read this. It's 20 years old, but not a bad place to start. A lot of these things haven't changed a whole lot in 20 years.
Okay.
Ooh, so that's nice. Testosterone structure. People talk about 5-alpha reductase.
Yeah.
There's the fifth carbon. That's the one that gets reduced when you 5-alpha reduce testosterone to make dihydrotestosterone. Is that the fifth carbon right there? This looks familiar, huh? On the
Yes.
Devices radio shirt. Yeah, bada boom, bada bing. So this is that C-alpha alkylated.
Okay.
Yep. This is where that happens. The 17th
Huh.
carbon. This is where you add esters.
Oh,
like
really?
enanthate versus cypionate. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So modifications of A, B, or C rings. This is very cool. This is just pretty neat. So 17 beta esters, 17 type B beta esters, testosterone cypionate, propionate, enanthate, undecanoate. Esterification of this site renders the steroid more fat soluble and delays absorption of the circulation. Some people don't even know that's how this works. It's right there. I had to scroll down just a few pages. That's cool. So the longer this molecule, propionate versus undecanoate, for instance, the longer more fat soluble it is, and the slower it's released into the circulation. But if we do a 17 alpha derivative like methyltestosterone or methandrostenedione, D-ball, halo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, these derivatives resist metabolism in the liver and so are orally active, associated with hepatic toxicities. So this is like all this basic stuff we found like that.
Yeah.
It's right there. So, and this is also very cool. Modifications of the A, B, or C rings. So, doesn't show it here. Maybe another one that shows the A, B, and C, but the A, B, and C rings are A, B, and C here.
Okay.
So this ring, sort of ring of carbons, these enhance affinity for the androgen receptor, 19 nortestosterone.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
19 nortestosterone?
Yeah.
What is
19 nors.
Like just the 19 nor family in general, you're saying?
That 19 nor is nandrolone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's right here. So resistance to aromatization to estradiol, phloxymesterone, 19 nortestosterone, blah, blah, blah. So it goes through a lot of this cool stuff. So you can, here's pictures of all these guys,
Oh, wow.
all of our friends. This is a nice one. You know,
That's cool.
Anabolic androgen integration. This is a 20-year-old review, 18 years.
And this is legit. This isn't like you're reading this off of a forum.
This isn't like on roids.com.
Right.
It's probably a site. I don't know if it is or not, but you know, this is the legit literature. And you can find so many cool goodies in here. So this is cool.
Yeah.
Shot performance of women athletes in East Germany. Redrawn from this hormonal doping energization of athletes. Secret program, the German Democratic Republic government, that's East Germany. So this is what happened to their shot put. I presume, I haven't looked, but this little block here means when they added the gear to the ladies supplement program. And look what happened to their shot put throwing distance. This went up from 17.5 to over 19. That's a gigantic improvement in performance for a world-class athlete in just like 10 weeks. So cool shit, right?
Yeah. Hey, I want to interrupt for a second. My microphone sound. This is off topic. My microphone sounds okay to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Somebody just commented saying that my microphone sounds off, like I'm in a tunnel or something. But if you don't hear that, okay. Yeah. If you don't hear that, then I'll rely on that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, if anyone else hears that, let us know. But
yeah, please do.
So far, if you become unintelligible, we don't want that.
Yeah, but that may not be because of the mic. So
this
is
so
awesome.
Flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Is this interesting to you, Scott?
Yeah, this is really interesting because this, we hear a lot of times like, well, go do research, but for the most part, an average guy doing research, it's looking at reading on message boards the research that other people have done.
Filtered and filtered and filtered repeatedly.
Yeah.
And this is filtered too, but these are people who are authorities, and this has been filtered through the minds of the authors, in this case, this particular woman, but it's also been checked by peer review before published, and those are people who are trained to be scientific critics. So this one's published. Just review article. Where was this published? The Endocrine Society. They're very well established. They've been around for forever. So this is a big publication.
There was something wrong with my mic. It's fixed.
Oh, what? Okay.
It's fixed now, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, but we'll live with that.
Okay. Cool. So there's androstenedione that keeps on popping up. Because this was the androstenedione. This is the Mark McGuire thing. This is back when that happened, where that was such a big deal, So this is why this is being addressed so much in some of these earlier papers. I actually have a paper somewhere in my filing cabinet over there that's in German that someone passed along for me. There was some behind-the-scenes publications from East Germany about what androstenedione did for some of their athletes. So, basic androgen receptor, androgen receptors, lots of cool stuff here. Very basic. So it's a nice place to start with some of the earlier stuff. So, this is a basic way, adverse health effects. So we have to watch out. This comes from bodytuning-check.ch.
Yeah.
That's just where the PDF originates. I'm going to go to look at all 12 versions here. This thing's published in various places, but it's from regulatory toxicity. So that's the publication site. That's a peer-reviewed journal.
Okay.
So just so happens that someone made that available, and Google Scholar scans the internet to find PDF versions of these publications. Okay. Some of these on Google Scholar may be, technically pirated.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that people are balk against so much is that there's a tremendous publication cost, or it's very, actually, you have to, if you publish something, at least back when I was doing it, I think this is still the case most of the time, you actually have to pay, the institutions pay or the individuals pay to publish. So if you publish something in regulatory toxicity, you may have to pay $500 publication cost as the author.
Wow.
But you don't get any proceeds from that. It's not like you're putting on Amazon, people are buying it.
Yeah.
Those are just publication costs, because these get printed out and put into I think they're still put on the shelves, and then they will also charge universities, libraries, to have these as part of their databases, or be part of a database that plan that the universities will subscribe to.
Yeah.
So, and there's that PDF again. So we could load this one, looking at adverse effects. So this is the actual. And these are nice because, for instance, in the absence of strength training, the muscle size is increased by higher doses of anabolic androgenic steroids. They give you these references, and guess what? These are clickable links, just like I have in my Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book as a PDF. So Bosin is the study that everyone talks about. This takes you down to Bosin. You can see that, this one. 600 milligrams per week in college-age males. So all this stuff is here in this paper. So the rabbit hole begins. So let's go back to Keenan's question. So he also was asking about Anadrol in particular.
Okay.
Didn't say why. So Anadrol is a trade name. So if we go back here to, we've done it there too. Anadrol, luckily oxymethylone and Anadrol, I've obviously searched for both of those. If we just type in Anadrol toxicity, what we'll get, because people refer to Anadrol 50 or Anadrol as the lay term for oxymethylone,
right,
is we'll get some Google Scholar hits from like steroid.com or whatever this, there's a citation somewhere here. I don't even know what the hell that is. Here, this is from the steroid forums. So you got to be careful. You won't get purely academic sources.
Really?
But if you put in Anadrol, or if you put in let's try to make it even worse. D-ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll give you some, but it gives you all sorts of weird things. So Yeah, that didn't give me anything.
Yeah.
So put in D-ball.
Yeah, try it without the space, without the hyphen. Let's see
Yeah,
here.
and tie Anabol, D-ball, info looking for us. So we got the Iron Man. So you don't, you're not going to get, if we just put in Dianabol, we're getting a little closer.
Yeah.
So you do get reference to Dianabol because that's just so ubiquitous
Okay.
as a term. Um, so you'll get when you start type. Let's go back to this is the one he was interested
Okay.
in, Anadrol here. So now you start getting, see, and it gives you Anadrol and toxicity. It shows you in the abstract.
Yeah.
So we're not, this one here's a mouse testis. Gives you PDF here. That's the source, but it's fine because it's from this Iranian journal.
Okay.
Not the best known journal. So what we can do then is put in review.
Okay.
So you always hear about Anadrol being used in women, right?
Uh-huh.
What if we just put in women? There we go. HIV wasting men and women. Researchgate. I've mentioned that before.
Uh-huh.
This is a PDF. So we click on that.
Yeah.
Boom, we've got it now.
Huh.
So here's one of the ones people talk about, massive doses, a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial of 89 HIV positive eugonadal women and men with wasting assigned to the anabolic steroid oxymethylone. 50 milligrams, BID is twice a day, TID is 3 times in a day. 100 to 150 milligrams a day, baby, of Anadrol in women.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Did they say for how long?
Yeah. Of course they did. It wasn't a day, that's for sure.
Yeah.
16 weeks.
Wow, that's a hefty dose for a hefty length of time.
4
huh?
months. Yeah, like that's the whole pre-contest period.
Right.
I'm going like, hey, they gave it to the women, but I tell you what, you know what they did? It looks like I just kind of caught this. Eligibility. We wanted to make sure they're at least 18. Let's not start them too early.
Yeah.
So, but they had HIV, so it's you know that's not a good thing, especially because this was done in, when was this published? 2003. So HIV, I believe back then was pretty fucking scary. It's like your liver's a little stressed. Oh, you got HIV. Let's do what we can to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the mindset and the rationale. So what's interesting here is that you can actually get a historical perspective looking at these things.
Oh, yeah.
And think people are weighing, you know, from a social consciousness perspective.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent was HIV like in our minds back then? It's like, oh shit, like this is the one that could come. This was HIV was kind of like how people were thinking of COVID. Like, this is the one that could take down the human race, right?
Yeah.
This is apocalyptic type stuff here.
Yeah.
So if we need to find something really strong that has some, you know, strong side effects as well to hold on to muscle mass, so that people can maintain their strength, so to speak, in order to be able to withstand the ravishing effects of HIV, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. So 40% of the patients in the 3 times a day, 25% in the 2 times a day, 8% of the placebo group had greater than 5 times baseline increase for ALT, AST, and gamma GT. So other adverse effects were not increased over placebo. So it's just elevated liver enzymes. They had some grade 4 toxicity. I have to see what that is. But so this is just another fascinating stuff. So this is exactly what Keenan was wanting to go into.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you're going to see anyone going. I mean, even the guys who push the limits. You know, take your best known mythical steroid user in the bodybuilding world, like Craig Titus was. You know, we can. Right. Everyone likes to talk bad about Craig, but apparently he went for it. I don't think Craig Titus would have been doing 150 milligrams of Anadrol for 16 weeks straight. Right. That's all they did, of course. So there's no polypharmacy involved here.
Yeah.
These people were not actually the healthiest, obviously, either.
Mm-hmm.
So they only had They only had 6 women total that were given the drug. So
Okay.
6, 2, and 4. Sure how they randomized them that way. Maybe it was just the ones who finished. Maybe 2 of those women couldn't handle it. That's the interesting thing too, is this was not a weight or body mass relative dose. So these women were more than likely smaller than the men. If they started off with 4, 4, and 4, let's say, and they had 2 drop out from the 150 milligrams. Oh, no, they less than the 2 times a week, 2 times a day. Sorry. So they may have had higher dropout.
Wait,
so that's what you go through.
They split it into 2 times a day?
Yeah. They had a 3 time a day, 50 milligrams.
I see.
And a 2 times a day. Yeah, they didn't give them 150 milligrams all in one dose. They
just
split it up.
Okay.
That's what the TID or the BID means.
Okay.
So sometimes you can look up the selected word.
Okay.
3 times a day.
Huh. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like literally, it's like so much as point and click.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have Adobe Acrobat, like I said, so I can like edit and all sorts of things. BID, that one didn't come up, but it means twice a day.
Okay. Yeah.
So bi as in 2, bi-weekly, bisexual, bi meaning 2, T as in try, trisexual, try anything. So little joke.
That is like totally like you sound like you're making like professor jokes now. We need this is like you at a blackboard basically. This is my gig, man. I love doing this. This is why they hated me when I was a professor. Why? What do you mean?
Because he's so fucking boring. Like, you know, he's sort of straight laced, like, you know, sticks to the topic, nothing but business. All right, so unfortunately, these look like crap. These didn't get very good resolution on these figures. But anyway, this is a nice. The data probably is in the tables as well. This addresses what he was looking at least in terms of physiological stuff. So the other thing that Keenan was interested in, and like imagine how much fun you could have if you were just doing this. You know, like this is it's so easy, right?
Yeah, you could spend a lot of time doing this too.
Oh my God, yeah. I've spent years of my life doing this, probably 10 years.
I can imagine. You have really good retention too. Like Victoria has really good retention. That's why I think like if I ask you, I'm like, hey Scott, what is what are the effects of Anadrol? You've read this, you know. It's like then part of your intelligence, I think, is that you lock that away. Then you're like, well, I did read a study. You remember that study you read, you know.
The more you develop sort of a framework upon which to build your knowledge base. So, you know, if someone says, like, let's say they're a total newbie to the gym and they say, Scott, like, how do I train my biceps? Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, well, you can do standing dumbbell curls or standing barbell curls, or you can use a preacher curl machine. You know, you can supinate on the way up and pronate on the way down. You can use a cable curl. You can do concentration. You could go through and you could give them like literally rattle off the top of your head 30 different types of curls. Yeah. Like, holy shit, how does he remember all that stuff? It's like, because you've been lifting for decades. Like in your mind.
I get that.
Yeah, it's the same thing, really.
It's funny too, and because I see this with you sometimes. It's the more you know, the harder it is to answer a simple question. There was a time that I just tell people like, well, you just got to reduce your carbs. You want to lose fat? Just eat less carbs. Done.
Right, but
you
that
know what I
doesn't
mean?
work for everybody.
Right. Well, maybe I didn't know that at one point. You know what I mean? It's like that's worked for most of the people that I've known at one point in my knowledge base. That was may have been my answer. You know.
You know, as an aside though, I get asked, like, I get stopped all the time, as you do, as probably most of the people listening here do. They get people see them say, "Wow, like you look so good. Obviously, been doing this for a while. You know some things. Like, how do you do that?" And I just tell people, I'm like, so what are the 5 things you should be doing that you're not, or the 5 things you aren't doing that you should be? Mm-hmm. And it can be a combination thereof.
Okay.
And they're like, what do you mean? I can do this, go through this in like 60 seconds. I'm like, okay, so as an example, do you drink on the weekends? Yeah. Like, too much? Yeah. Okay. Boom. What kind of crappy foods do you eat that you shouldn't be eating if you want to be leaner? Well, I have, and like you can look at the person and kind of like if you can tell like they're Italian, they have an Italian, like maybe if they're from New York, you hear the accent, you're like, you're from an Italian family. I'm just guessing. Like, yeah, you guys eat a lot of Italian food, a lot of fatty sauces and cheeses and stuff, and that's probably not the best. Like, yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, boom. So how often do you go to the gym? I was like, well, it's inconsistent. It's like, we got to set up a pattern. You go through that, and people come with those 5 things, like the big rocks.
Yeah.
In no time flat. They know the answer. You're just telling them what they already know. And that helps. Like, so I do that all the time with people, because otherwise, the see details thing doesn't help. So, but this is very sort of specific.
Yeah.
So it's very fun. So one of the things I was going somewhere, the next was, mechanistic and outcome based. So I think he's looking at like maybe a muscle mass. Well, let's just put it in mechanistic to see. I'm not even sure exactly. I think he means like mechanism of action. So let's put that in. Whoops. And it even offers up that. So here's probably more than what he wants. Induces hematopoietic stem cell cycling. Hemopoiesis is like erythropoiesis, that's making more red blood cells. So let's see if there's anything. Aplastic anemia, we know it's used for that. Anemia, just kind of scrolling down here. And you want to look mainly for the ones you can read the whole paper on. Telomerase activity in hematopoietic cells, that's interesting.
What's that mean?
So one of the things that happens each time a cell undergoes mitosis, creates a copy of itself, there are little bits and pieces of DNA that are lost that can be replaced. Those are called telomeres.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the things when they first were sort of discovered is like, this is going to be the fountain of youth. You see in cancer cells, which are immortal, so to speak, they don't die. They just keep on replicating themselves until basically the host dies.
Yeah.
Cancer kills you, unless you do something about it, obviously. Is that they will sometimes have overexpression of telomerase. So when they make copies of themselves and they just keep on growing and growing and growing, they replace those bits and ends, those telomeres, that normally get lost. And as those get lost, you lose function in the cell. Some of the DNA, the coding is lost various ways. I'm not an expert here, but you lose some cell function. So it's kind of like, imagine every time you brought your car in to the mechanic to get fixed, and like, a couple of the diodes from the programming controller, the PCM, were lost. Like some electronics of the car was like kind of degraded, like just pulled out like a couple fuses or whatever. And next thing's like, okay, I don't have a left turn signal anymore. That kind of sucks, but that's what happens to cells as they undergo mitosis and grow.
I was kind of thinking like a copy machine.
Yeah, there's degradation. Exactly, that's another way to think of it too. So it'd be like if you didn't replace the ink in the copy machine, eventually you just end up with copies that were useless. You couldn't read anything. They looked like the figure from that paper we just pulled up. It's like, I can't tell what this is. So telomerase activity refers to the ability of the cell to replace those lost bits and pieces of DNA. That usually get lost, or it's basically it's the ability to refill the ink.
So they're saying Anadrol can do that?
I don't know. You want to look at it?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be curious now.
Open it up. It'll probably have a nice little. So this is keratosis congenita. It's an inherited disease, a telomere maintenance involved it's in the skin, I believe, or at least in keratin production. So telomeres are important DNA repeat sequences. Look at the end of eukaryotic chromosomes. Act for protective cap to avoid exposure of single-stranded DNA to cellular DNA damage to response machinery. The synthesis of telomeres is catalyzed by the enzyme telomerase, which is particularly active during development. Blah, blah, blah. Telomeres shorten with each cell division in vitro and in vivo until critical short telomere length is reached. That's when the cell starts having issues. Hematopoietic stem cells, blah, 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 blah. Let's get to the bottom of this here. So this gives you the whole background. This is what's nice about this. It gives you, and of course, if you don't know what these things mean, like there's a citation. So in most somatic cells, include hematopoietic cells and across many species. What other species? We click on 5. Longitudinal studies of telomere length in feline blood. So we're talking about cats.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll find that the researchers don't do a very good job of substantiating their claims. So if you follow up on the reference, like, That's a reference like across many species, and they named one in that reference. Cats, like that's not many, that's one.
Yeah.
I want to see a review with all sorts of species. They've done this in C. elegans and in fruit flies and worms and roundworms and all sorts of things, but they didn't decide to cite that for some reason. So we'll go back to the abstract. We get to the answer to your question. So, in conclusion, no significant difference to the ability to functionally enhance telomerase activity could be observed for the 3 androgen derivatives, ADs, studied in vitro. Physicians therefore might choose treatment based on the patient's individual comorbidities, pre-existing liver disease, and expected side effects. So, didn't have an impact.
Okay.
It was worth looking at, Yeah. If we're wanting to keep, in this case, they're looking at hematopoiesis, and oxymethylone helps with hematopoiesis, keep your red blood cell count high. That's why it's a good choice for people with HIV. They can become anemic pretty easily.
Oh, okay.
That's why you'd have that in there. So thinking long haul, if those cells are degrading because we're turning them on to produce red blood cells really rapidly, the more that those hematopoietic cells have to undergo mitosis, the more telomeres might be lost more rapidly, and we lose the telomeres, then those cells lose their viability because they get to that critical telomere length. So it's basically we're making more copies, and we're going to run down our ink stores. If choosing Anadrol, let's say, versus some other anabolic steroid to create more red blood cells means that we keep the ink stores more full, and we can make copies for 2 years versus 3 years, or 3 years versus 2 years, so a longer period of time, then Anadrol is the choice over Nandrolone, for instance, or something else. So that's why they wanted to check that out, but it didn't seem like they found anything here.
I see.
In this particular study. But wild shit, right? People looking all like this person, these people, where are they? Are they in Denmark? Yeah, I think so. Aachen University. Germany, they're Germany. Deutschland. Yeah, so, obscure stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's being done.
Yeah.
So here's, this is something that I'm sure Victoria has. Oxymethylone differential between the ovarian and endometrial effects. Hopefully I know she's run into everything. Hopefully not too many women come to her who've been doing 150 milligrams of Anadrol a day for 6 weeks. But, there's going to be effects on both the endometrium and the ovarian. So maybe like a woman has gone on oxymethylone for whatever reason. Maybe she thought she was getting Winnie and she was using Anadrol. And now she's trying to reestablish her hormonal cycle.
Yeah.
And she wants to both get pregnant, so you've got menstrual flow, and you've got ovarian refers to the ovarian cycle producing eggs, and menstrual flow is obviously connected. Endometrium refers to the menstrual flow. So you might have a situation, this is what this study was looking into, is probably with, I don't know, you probably use an animal model here, I'm guessing, but you might find that, the menstrual flow is not indicative of ovarian function. After there's an offset between those two, right?
Yeah.
So that women actually might have ovaries are doing their job. There's a monthly cycle there, but you're not seeing normal menstrual flow, or it could be the other way around.
Yeah. The
limitation is menstrual flow, and the menstrual flow might be something because the person's become anemic or what have you. So that's an interesting piece of information that for women in particular. So. Or maybe that's something that you'd see with any type of steroid, that there's some sort of offset between the recovery of ovarian and endometrial function. So we're not finding much on the mechanism of action, though. So let's just let's add a search term.
Okay.
Ooh. So bone density. So guess what? Let's say we want to start collecting some of this stuff. There's two ways we can do it. One, we've obviously got these.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back here. I want to go back and say, what if we want to keep ourselves really organized?
Mm-hmm.
Where's this one at? That was the back one page, I believe. So this is the paper.
Okay.
If I click that one, it'll open. I believe it'll probably open the PDF again. So let's go to the source here on PubMed. So I use EndNote, which is what we see here, and I could show you guys how to do that, but most folks who have that already know how to work it. I got this nifty little freebie called Zotero, and it actually it's set up with an add-on that works with Firefox. So I have the Zotero app. I downloaded this today for free. It cost me zilch. I haven't been getting a bunch of pop-ups or ads yet, so far so good. If I go back over to here to Firefox, I've loaded up the actual paper, and Zotero, the database app, let's see, doesn't have it there. I'm going to go back. Let's see if we can make it work. So this little, people may not be able to see that. If I click on this Save to Zotero from Google, works with Google Scholar. How cool is that? So I'm in Google Scholar. I have found the two listings for this particular paper, and what I'm going to do is click on the Zotero button for Save to Zotero, and it actually lets me choose which of these versions I want. I'm going to take the PubMed one, which is the second one. And save it. Let's see. And I click that, and let's see what happened. Ha ha ha! So I'm over here in Zotero. There it is. I don't know if people can see this. Let's see if I can. Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Maybe too small.
I mean, it is small, but we can see it. I mean, I don't know if people will be able to see it on their phone so much, but
yeah, I'm going to make it bigger and bigger. It's got to be a keyboard shortcut for that. This is all free stuff, so you can't expect too much. So it actually added it right there.
That's cool.
You can create folders, so I can make an Anadrol folder.
Yeah.
New collection. Anadrol, go back to my library. Put that in the Anadrol connection. You know what? Let's see here. I'm going to, right there, attachments. Let's see, add attachments. Attach stored copy of the file. It's going to be here in my downloads. Let me go double check here. The name of it is IJMS21. Boom. I've now added that PDF.
There you go.
I can start gathering those things. So someone says, hey, I've got, someone asks like, hey, what are your I found of some, but I can't find some of, I'm looking for something on Anadrol.
Yeah.
Do you have one? It's like, I think I have it in my database. Let me go check. You've got 15 of them in here, and you can go copy that one. Let me see I don't know what you can do. There it is. There. I can open that back up. Ooh, it even titled it differently. It named the file more appropriately. It changed the name from this obscure, numerical name to the first author. That's beautiful. EndNote doesn't even do that. That's cool as shit. So it retitled it for me, so it's easier to find. If I want to look for Vieri et al., it's there. So it has somewhere created up a folder for the Zotero. I like this. The only thing about Zotero is it doesn't let you. There's all sorts of cool stuff here. Related. So you can create interrelationships. Looks like. So this is a very, very, very cool freebie. And it's open source software. So let's see, what haven't we covered here? So if you want to get the papers, do it the same way I've just talked about. Let me see if the Zotero works in PubMed. I think it probably does. Oops, wrong. So let's see. See if we can find this thing in PubMed.
Okay.
Is it there? Is that one of the lists? Yeah, there it is. So if we're in PubMed, look, doesn't look if the Zotero integrates with PubMed. Oh wait, it does. It just didn't show up. So I could say from PubMed as well, if I like to use PubMed, which is just the Medline database. Most things on Google Scholar are going to be in PubMed, not always. You know what's also cool? Check this out. If we want to find the original package insert. So I put that as a search term. So this gave me anything that refers to the package insert refers to the original information that comes from the producers of Anadrol as oxymethylone. It's there. You can also include patents. So let's do a patent. Because patents are available in Google Scholar. So there's probably a patent here for this. Here is administrative non-oral androgenic steroids to women. It's a patent. Let's see what this has for us. Anadrol did not come up because it's an oral, obviously. But it mentions oxymethylone. So, and actually this patent, it talks about non-oral anabolic androgenic steroids, but it includes oxymethylone. So they may be referring to injectable Anadrol being used for women. And this patent refers to a way to administer all of these steroids to women. How about that? So I never knew there was a patent out there for administering anabolic steroids to women. Injectable orals to women. It's been patented. Someone owns this patent. It may have expired. So I want to make sure I've not missed anything here. But these are the basic ways you can do this. Yeah. If you want to even do a broader search to start, which is very nice, you can just type in review.
What does that mean when you say because you mentioned that earlier, review? Oh,
it'd be a review article.
Okay.
So review articles would mean like the one by Kuhn that we pulled up. This guy, this paper. It was this one here. Yeah. This one by Cynthia Kuhn. This was the first one looked at when I was talking about the modifications of the different carbons. This is a review article. So she's just reviewing generally anabolic steroids. Like you can't get more generic than that title. Okay. It wasn't side effects. It wasn't ergogenic effects. It wasn't psychological, psychiatric effects. It's just anabolic steroids.
So review is general?
Review, yes. It's a review of the topic. Okay. We're reviewing the topic in a very general way.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So if you review a bodybuilding show, you're not talking about how did Nick Walker do. You're looking at, all the categories, what were the placings and all of them, everybody.
Okay.
So just a review article is what the generic term for that. So review will get you a lot. So usually you review of the Japanese literature on hepatocellular carcinoma associated with anabolic steroid therapy. So this is a very specific review.
Yeah.
We're not talking about reviews of the literature in Europe or North America. In the Japanese literature, you don't have a PDF on this one, but you might be able to find that somewhere else. Protective role of royal jelly in oxymethylone-induced oxidative injury in mouse testis. So this was from the journal. It looks like they cite endocrine reviews, so it came up because it actually Google Scholar will go into the PDF, even if it's not available, and find search terms in the actual article. Sometimes. So if there's a citation to a review or the word review is in the article somewhere, it'll come up as well, even though it's not a review article. So that's a very specific one. But a lot of times you'll find review. And a lot of times, this is nice. So this is the one we've already, I've downloaded this at some point in time. And if you look, it tells you in this abbreviation here of the search of what it found, review of oxymethylone, the 17-alpha-alkylated anabolic steroid. This is a citation that is in there. Something was in press at the time that's cited. So I was like, that looks like a nice review. Is that's this one. So this article, Review of Oxymethylone, a 17-alpha-acylated androgenic steroid, is cited here because this is a little snapshot, a little clip from this paper where you see Review of Oxymethylone, a 17-alpha-acylated anabolic steroid. So sometimes you'll find in the searches that look within a paper that didn't come up in the search that you want. So let's say this paper didn't come up in the search. I could copy that, go up here, paste it in. Of course, it finds it for me. So it gives you all sorts of ways to find goodies. Yeah. Meta-analysis is another term that can be used. Probably won't find as much there, but here we go. So one of the things that Keenan asked about was outcome-based. So I think he's meaning body composition there. That's what I take that to mean. Size, strength, performance, body composition. So here's one, effective testosterone, body composition. Here's one, HIV wasting. I don't see meta-analysis there. So we're looking, I don't know if there's going to be a meta-analysis on oxymethylone in particular. But you're finding them for testosterone, of course. Lots of them there. And here's a meta-analysis on anabolic steroids and reproductive with athletes and recreational users. So that's a general meta-analysis. So here's a nice paper. I'm going to open this one up. This is a super combo people have started to do. So they'll do a quote-unquote narrative review where they're narrating, like, this is what, so-and-so found this and so-and-so found this. And these are like, we're finding this study did this. And the preponderance of the studies suggest that this is going to be a typical side effect you might see, and that most of the body increase in fat-free mass is due from fluids acutely and, skeletal muscle mass, blah, blah, blah. So a systematic review or a narrative review is a nice way to look at things. And that's what they did in the past. But the meta-analysis is where they take the numerical statistical outcomes of each of the studies that have met the criteria, that got basically the information they need, and the studies were well enough done. And they compile those, meta meaning huge, and they do a jumbo giant meta statistical analysis of all the studies that they could fit into their criteria for the meta-analysis. So they basically take all the studies and do its own study, a meta-analytic study with that. So the systematic review tells you, let's sort of qualitatively, like, here's what we're seeing. And then the meta-analysis weighs all those things from a more numerical, mathematical, quote-unquote, objective viewpoint. So this is awesome. Reproductive system. See what the conclusions were here. All sorts of conclusions. Reductions in luteinizing hormone. These are results. Majority of AH users demonstrated hypogonadism with persistent low gonadotrophin and testosterone levels lasting for several weeks to months after AS withdrawal. Anabolic androgen steroid use results in profound and prolonged effects on the reproductive system of athletes and recreational users, and potentially on fertility. Nothing we didn't know, but we know that not because some bro necessarily said this is what happened to me, and many bros do, but also it's been studied. This is what you can expect too. Like, this is how much LH will go down. So they've actually taken, in this case, 33 studies, combined them statistically, so they got a total of almost 1,800 users and non-users. They had control groups. Most were men, 6 studies with some female athletes. You can read all this. That's cool as shit, too. That's a lot of work right there. 33 studies.
Yeah.
They took all the data out of those studies that they got from the results, combined them, and did a statistical analysis with that. So, and some of those were with oxymethylone. So if we do, we'll find that listed. OY is what they used for oxymethylone here. So, so this is cool. Hold on, I'm gonna go back up to the beginning here. This is look at this. This is a badass table, huh? Studies. These are the studies that they looked at. OY refers to oxymethylone. That's the abbreviation they use. Mm-hmm. So I just typed in OY, and now we're looking at, here are the studies. You can click and link them, and here are the types of anabolic steroids they looked at, and in these particular studies. So they did a summary study. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we just came across, here's the mother lode of studies where people were using either alone, which is going to be very few of them. Mm-hmm. We've already found one of those, or in conjunction. Anadrol, oxymethylone. So you want to go down. There's more rabbit holes here. So you can, if you go and dig in, click on this one, then you go and you find, there's that study. Let's go to that one. Strauss, number 54. Flip this back around. And guess what? All I got to do, copy. Oops. Put this back. Google Scholar, paste it in. There's that study. It's not a freebie, but we can at least read the abstract. Patterns of use of 32 bodybuilders and powerlifters. Gyno in 4 of the 20 current users, 1 of the 19 other subjects. 56% increase in irritability, aggressive behavior. So, if you wanted access to that, if I thought to myself, you know what, got to have this one, man, got to have it. So I could view or download this. It cost me $55.
Wow,
that's pretty steep. Normally they're about 40, 30 to 40. That's a pricey one. But if someone, you might. So let's apply some of this. Let's say I want to find this, and let's say I've got access to ResearchGate. Mm-hmm. Richard Strauss. James Wright, he used to write for Flex magazine.
No kidding.
Yeah, Don Catlin, he was pretty sure he worked for WADA for many, many years, World Anabolic Doping Agency. And Richard Strauss is familiar too. So you could download this citation. If I click this, it'll download this to a citation that I can upload in EndNote, or I can save this to Zotero directly from here.
Okay.
If I'm using the freebie. But I'm going to go over to ResearchGate, type that, just put in that title. Do we get anything? Let me try this here. Nothing. There it is. Publications. Here's the publication. So if I really wanted this and these guys were so willing, I can go, I'm going to click on this here. Here are all these. Here's the study again. I can ask the authors, hey, would you mind sending this to me?
Really? Huh.
Yeah. And I get requests for things I've done, and they will send me stuff. Sometimes you have to wait for a while.
Yeah.
But what's also cool here, here's the citations, related research. So there's more. So this Strauss, here's James Wright again. So this is another way. If you have a ResearchGate, you'd have to have institutional access for this. But you may be able to do that if you were undergraduate. If you went to college, you could even probably call up your college and say, hey, I want to get on ResearchGate. I want to take these skills that I learned in college, and I want to keep applying them. I'm a lifelong learner. Thank you so much for charging me without the yin yang for my tuition. I want to keep on learning. Yeah. Can I please have an email address as an alum that I can use to get on ResearchGate? And what else has got Richard Strauss got going on here? Hasn't been much for a while. He doesn't seem to be on there, but this was an 83, so I just know that name because he's done a bunch of things here. But James Wright might actually, if he's the guy I'm thinking of, I think he's the one who wrote for Who's the Ohio State, wrote for Muscle Mag or Flex Magazine. So you can just keep on digging and digging. Eventually, you can get almost anything you like. And there's another way to do it. I'm not going to. People would know this. It's a scientific hub.
Mm-hmm.
If you kind of use that term, I'm kind of hinting at what it is. And it's a tough thing because, like I said, the journals have to, they publish all this stuff and it's their information and they're the ones who disseminated it and blah, blah, blah. But people have, it's nice to be able to have access to this information. As long as you're not making money off of it and selling papers to people, you're just using it for your own edification. Or you have to be careful in presenting this stuff at conferences or presenting it when you're like doing seminars. So I have to be very careful that I haven't taken something that's not freely available and used it for a figure when I'm charging people hundreds of dollars to see me give a talk.
Right.
And I'm basically, breaching copyright on this kind of stuff. But, and last but not least, examine.com. They're just awesome. For as far as supplements goes, they're totally unbiased. They won't suggest any brand. They refuse to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know the people that started it. I know someone who used to work for them. I think he may still do it. They do sell these supplement guides, which are pretty pricey, but they're continually updated guides. So I'm logged in here on everything imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
And they have tons of free stuff. So let's put in. I don't know if oxymethylone will be in here because this is about supplements, true supplements, not super supplements. Let's just try anabolic steroids. Yeah, not much. Not going to find much there, but
but it is. I have used it just to learn more about individual compound supplements. They're great, for that.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. So. What is a steroid? That's great. Vitamin D is a steroid. Testosterone, cholesterol, those are all chemically speaking steroids. But every creatine question ever asked has been answered over here.
Yes.
So, and they do like muscle building supplements. Let's just check this out here. Everything is here, pretty much. So let's just put in arachidonic acid. It's very well done. They list the level of evidence. They have the studies. You can pull the studies up. You can click on the studies. It'll load them for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had Firefox as your default browser, you could add these things, download them, and add them to your own personal database. So I just want to mention examine.com because it's basically as objective as it could get. And they don't take money from any supplement companies at all. They just sell their own guides, which are unbiased. So they're a kind of a lone shining star of objectivity out there outside of the traditional research databases and literature search engines like Google Scholar.
Okay.
So that's a great one. So I say, hey, look on examine.com, and if you can't find it there, then it just means it probably just came out like in the last 5 or 6 months.
Okay. So,
but hopefully, like for Keenan, I hope when I answered that question, I'm like, man, I see these questions. I can't, like, there's so many ways in. It's like, it was just like a whole mansion full of rooms to go look in. If you go on Researchgate and Google Scholar and blah, 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 you can dig in on so much of this stuff, and you actually read the papers and read the references within those papers. The information is all so there, and that's everything I just showed you is free. Aside from examine.com, you can buy their supplement guides, but a lot of that stuff is free. You just don't have it put together in as convenient a way.
Yeah.
And those guides are pretty inexpensive, and you buy them once and they update for a lifetime.
Oh, that's cool.
But this is all free stuff.
That's awesome.
Just like Google. Yeah. So I wanted the people to because I'm going to get asked this, Scott. I'm going to get asked this again for many, many years to come. So now we have this podcast that's going to help me and help hundreds of people, thousands of people, be able to dig in on this stuff themselves.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And some of the groups that are scientific-based groups where people will say, hey, do you have any good research on beta-alanine? And it's like, yeah, there's tons of it. Like, have you searched? Like, why are you asking for someone else to send you things when you can find those? Like, you go on the ISSN site, International Sports Science and Nutrition, and they have a position stand on. Also, I think they have one on beta alanine that's there, and people are still asking, and you can find that it's for free to download on their site, and it's a free download through Google Scholar, et cetera, et cetera. And people still, they just don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, this is just should be so widely known and available to people. It's just kind of crazy. It'd be like, it's like, I want to start working out. Like, how do you find a gym?
Yeah.
Like, it's literally that obvious of a question in a certain degree. It's like, well, have you like tried like looking on the map on your phone? Just type in gym.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of them, right? It's that simple. And then you start like, okay, then you read the reviews and, then you start filtering out, talk to people who might know. So then if someone comes to me and says, hey, Scott, I'm not quite following this whole thing on like what happens after oxymethylone binds to the androgen receptor, because it doesn't seem like it really binds to the androgen receptor. If you look at this paper, it's an oral and the orals don't bind. Like, what's going on with those? It's like, well, there might be another androgen receptor that's not being picked up on. It's a load of studies. There's transduction studies that have been done, and then that's where I love to help people clarify stuff that I've dug in to try to answer, because I've gotten to that same place where it's like, well, how the hell do the orals work if they don't bind the anabolic steroids? That's some of the research shows that the binding affinity is like for shit.
I remember you showing us that before.
Yeah. So those are good questions that I love to dig in. And you can dig in and find those too, but I understand people are not trained as scientists, so they won't be able to do that necessarily on their own. But they can certainly get a long ways in. They can get in the door and start looking around, and then you say, okay, so I have these 2 colors of paint that I want to use to paint my walls, and I don't know the difference between these 2 brands. Yeah. You're the paint expert. Help me. It's like, let me tell you. Here's what they don't tell you about this paint, or here's what they tell you about this. This study was done in this particular year, and if you look at this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 then you can talk to someone who's been around the block a little bit and dug into these things. And that's where I love to help people out, because I know they've already taken the ball and run with it as far as they can. And now they're running and they want to keep on going. And I'm like, come on, man, let's do it. I'd be more than happy to help you.
Well, I think this will be helpful because, like I said before, a lot of times we don't know where to go. And our first thought would be to just go to Google, type in Anadrol. And then what are you going to find? It's probably not going to be the resources we looked at today. But now everybody has, a few more tools. They can dig a little bit deeper. So that's pretty cool. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And if you go to Google, it'll actually send you to Google. So some of the results will be Google Scholar results.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sometimes, but not always. So the term will give you if you're on Google Scholar, doesn't necessarily say you're going to get academic sources.
Okay.
If you put an Anadrol versus oxymethylone.
Yeah.
Look at the source. But a lot of times, for instance, if you go to Google and you paste in an entire reference, or the title of a paper, Google will get you that.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll give you because it recognizes that's a scholarly source.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're searching for. So Google is intelligent enough to basically load you into the Google Scholar domain of its search results.
Like if I type in an address, it'll take me to Google Maps. It can differentiate.
Yeah. Exactamundo. Yep, just like that.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, I'll be sure to I'll copy this stuff down. I'll put it in our show notes. I mean, obviously people could take a screen cap of, what you have here. But we'll put that in the show notes so that people can, take those links directly from it.
I just texted it to you, so you won't have to.
Excellent. Perfect.
No need to do all that, man. We'll make use of the technology.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else while I got you here?
Thanks for hanging with me. Hopefully this helped you too. But
absolutely,
Scott, thank you for giving me the opportunity to put this information out for people, because this can help a lot of people.
Absolutely, man.
So you're making this available too. If it weren't for you, then this information I'd be putting it on Instagram or doing the YouTubing myself. So I appreciate that.
Right on. Well, I'm glad that I can, and I hope that some of our listeners will get something out of this. And I know we have a lot of people that are really interested in learning more. I just read a comment. A guy was like, all you got to do is take, the drugs and lift heavy and eat food. And 6 months later, I gained 50 pounds. It's like, well, okay, yeah, there is that route. But you know what?
Right.
Some people want to take it a little bit further and understand what they're doing, and I think that that's who our audience is. So I think they'll appreciate it. So I guess with that said, for another episode of Muscle Minds with Dr. Scott Stevenson, I'm Scott McNally. Guys, we will see you soon. Thanks, Scott.
Peace. You're welcome, brother.